Mindgear Labs, Sustainable Growth and Gamification of Growth. Mindgear Labs, LLC supports the Huntsville-Madison community by providing rapid fabrication lab equipment for use by the general public and local businesses. Mindgear Labs is open to anyone who has a great idea and wants to build it. Locations and hours of operation. Locations are in Madison, Alabama and Huntsville, Alabama at Low Mill. Hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 12 p.m. to 9 p.m., Sunday, 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., with a total of 60 hours a week per operation. Project goals. Develop Mindgear Labs community by replicating Maker 256's weekly open maker event, with an average of 15 people at the Low Mill location during 6 to 9 p.m. Self-determination theory. How to get to where we need to go. Self-determination theory is a theory that gamification uses to frame some of the interactions and some of the design elements that are going to be used in moving forward. Particularly, these have been popularized by Dan Pink in his book Drive. Here you see them listed out as autonomy, mastery, purpose equals motivation. We'll go into them in detail. Autonomy means delegation, no micromanagement, no mandates, and the player is able to manage their own time. Mastery, the right competencies, right experiences, right task, right support at the right time. Just-in-time training, more or less. Purpose is for the member. Why is it relevant to them? Why is it relevant to the task? Why is it relevant for lodges and guilds, which we'll talk about later? Why is it relevant for Mindgear Labs? And what are the real world impacts that lead to the purpose? Finally, motivation. Motivation provides challenging, developmental, and we're using Lazzaro's 4 keys to fun. Generative metaphors. You might call these theories, but these are the metaphors that are being used in this presentation to help structure some of the thoughts and concepts into a coherent form. The generative metaphors in this particular project include the path to mastery, Lazzaro's 4 keys to fun, Bartle's player types, and a simplified marketing funnel. Designing using generative metaphors. Generative metaphors provide a scaffold for Mindgear Labs to use in designing their external marketing efforts, their internal marketing efforts, organizing members, and organizing member activities. Using design heuristics to systematize recruiting new members, market segmentation, converting profit value chains, and member retention strategy. Path to mastery. To drive sustained engagement, you design for all 3 stages: the onboarding, the habit building, and the mastery phase. Another way of looking at it is newbies. The newbies come into the system, and you have to orientate them through the onboarding process. As they get familiar with the process, they move up into the habit building or the problem-solving phase. That's another way of looking at it. You give them problems, and they learn how to integrate what they've learned into what they need to do. And the enthusiast or the guru mastery level, however you choose to look at that, these are the actual the top of the pyramid, and they know a lot. And in some levels, you can go a little bit higher where they're teaching. Bartle's player types. Bartle's player types are characterized by 4 different types: killers, achievers, socialites, also known as socializers, and explorers. The way I explain this particular generative model is to use the King of the Hill model to explain how it kind of operates. The way I've explained it before is killers. Killers want to be at the top of the hill no matter what, and they will spend money to go out and get the best equipment, the best training that they can afford. That could be Teflon-like clothing, so people find it very hard for them to grab. They could have gloves that are tactile, that make it easy for them to grab others. And generally, the way that Bartle talks about it, these people ruin the experience for everyone else because they're so competitive to win and be at the top of the hill. Achievers. Achievers maintain focus on status. That gives them the opportunity to go out and compete with the killer, meaning that they want to take him down off the hill, but they don't want to be up there all the time, and it's more or less to check the box as an achievement type. I want to do it, say I do it, and move on. Socialites or socializers, just hanging around watching what's going on the hill. hey, Rob, what do you think is Antonio's going to do to keep Rich at the top of the hill? How long is Rich going to stay up there before Antonio knocks him out? You know that Antonio, he's a highly competitive person. He can't be not on the top of the hill. Rich is going to, oh, blah, 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 that kind of thing. You will equate that if you're a gamer type, the gaming lobbies in the multiplayer online gamings. That's basically where they go to hang out with their friends. Whether they compete again in a game that evening or not, that's where they go. Explorers, defined by exploring and the drive to discover the unknown. That's, like I mentioned earlier, that's the cool part. That's the thing for me that drives me forward. The explorers, for a King of the Hill metaphor, would be over there standing on the sidelines going, hey, you guys, did you know that there's another hill that's 50 feet taller over there? I found it whenever I was out walking around yesterday. Lazzaro's 4 Keys to Fun. Nicole Lazzaro created 4 Keys to Fun because people say fun, but they don't know which type of fun they mean. And that's the reason this has been included here, because going to Mindgear Labs to relax, you need to actually plan and design for which type of fun they're going to have. The 4 types of fun she has here are hard fun or fiero. You may recognize that if you played video games, or Rob, you played football. So it's when you nail the tackle or you've nailed the boss. I mean, it's that explosion of emotion that just elevates everything to a very high level, and that's a type of fun. You design for that. Curiosity, that's more or less going out and exploring and being curious about the world. This is my particular player type, is explorer. I'm motivated by cool things. I'm an early adopter. There's no doubt about that. And you design for people like me you're bringing them new information and they crave it. Serious fun. Serious fun, while you may not consider it to be a part of what you do, is you're taking their mind off of their troubles of family and work and outside the Mindgear environment. So you want to give them something that is challenging and serious. Maybe it has a high level purpose, but it certainly has a design element where they are completing and engaging in that and that only. I liken this to the Rocket City launch event that I attended a little over a year and a half ago, where I truly blocked out whatever was going on in my life outside of that particular weekend when I was on site. That was serious fun for me, and it's a really good example. The final one is people fun. That's the amusement. That's what people most is socializing, and it's obviously it's for the socializer types. Socializing is hanging out. You just staying in touch with your friends, just goofing around, that type of thing. All of these need to be considered in a design element when you're designing events. You need to mix different activities into the socializer type, which is the predominant type, so that socializers have something to watch and socialize about. That would be some of the competitions and boss fights and the brown bags where people come in with new products or new materials, something new that is going to be educational to the community. And obviously watching serious fun would be more than likely the really difficult challenges. How are they going to solve that? Standing on the sidelines, watching and integrating what's going on while the actual main player is producing a product. You might liken this to watching others compete. Watching others compete is the profit for participation sports like football, basketball, and NASCAR. Marketing funnel. Marketing funnel is a very simplified form to be able to segment audiences and track your profit through the sales funnel. You start at the very top, which is very broad and wide, and you get people through and work them through the funnel. The economic value change goes from low profit at the very top and broad to high profit at the very bottom, narrow. Marketing, in particular external marketing. We're going to start with, and I'm going to use several different examples here, is the general public. One of the things that I've considered when I was putting this together was to have a kiosk either at Bridge Street or at Park Place Mall, where some of the demos and stuff that we'll talk about later are able to appear. It attracts general attention, where people are walking by and they can actually see what's going on at Mindgear Labs. You might have a little LCD TV where they stop and just look at some of the previous presentations. I'm not sure what the expense is to put something up like that out there. I'm not even sure how it would work at Bridge Street. It's certainly a possibility at Park Place Mall and some of the new malls that are coming down. The general public would be the just walking by. They are the broadest audience that you can reach, including radio and TV and something like that. It's just a high level awareness of Mindgear Labs. Visitors after the general public has come by and they filled out a form for more information or something like that, any way that you've captured their email address. This applies also to your website through a squeeze page. I think that I'll mention that later. This is to move them to visitors. And what you do with visitors is you move them and invite them to come on site for a hands-on demo, something like that. So they actually come there. They self-select and move down the funnel. Prospects would be the people who have, after they've been to an on-site demo at Mindgear Labs, they have expressed desire to sign up for maybe a very short workshop or a boot camp or something like that. I'll mention that later. Finally, until you get to be members. Obviously, there's expense at the top of the funnel and there's profit down at the bottom. That's for something for you to consider in your marketing. This gives you a kind of a visual representation of how the numbers flow. I'm sure there's calculations out there that'll do that, but that's not the purpose. Just a visual representation of how people flow through the funnel. I mentioned this earlier with the mall located at the kiosk. 30-minute public demonstration by machine level members, and we'll talk about those in a later segment. Visitors, on-site demos, they showcase the facility, have them walk through, and these are by gear level. Once again, we'll talk about that later. Prospects would be one-night hands-on projects where they're coming in, they're getting used to the environment, getting used to the tools. And it's very short duration. They show up, they do something in one night, and they feel the sense of accomplishment and achievement. There's maybe a little less autonomy here because they're learning and they're willing to accept more direction than they would otherwise. Members go straight into the Members Mastery activities funnel. The autoresponder for email marketing is truly a key part of the sales funnel that I've been talking about. Public demos and websites need to collect email addresses and offer on the website, particularly offer an ethical bribe. That could also translate into something at the kiosk where they sign up, you're going to give them one free month or one value plus. I don't really like discounts so much, but one value plus presentation or a chance to attend a boot camp for free. I'm not sure that's a discount or not, but it's an incentive to get people there. The ethical bribe on the website would be 10 points to designing a 3D toy, or how to design a laser cut puzzle, something like that, so that they have in their hands something in exchange for their email address, which is what you want, because once the email address captured, they are entered into the database for email marketing. Email addresses are sent an invitation to open house, which validates the email and also provides for the opt-in that are required by some of the spam laws. Autoresponders are really great for email marketing. First of all, they allow for you to track responses, and they aid in the segmentation of the market for future value offers based on user data and behaviors. Downsells, you're going to offer less value at a decreased price. You don't decrease the price for the same offer. You decrease the offer and decrease the price correspondingly. Upsells would be at a higher level. The more specialized the information, the higher the value it should be, and the more it should cost them to get it. Autoresponder Resources are SAS software services. There's several. These are three of the leading ones: GetResponse, MailChimp, and Lead Pages. MailChimp is the one I'm going to single out here for the way to go, because I believe it's 25,000 email addresses before they start charging you. So you can run a small email list service for a very long time before you reach that level. Content marketing, that would be the people who create the emails that go into the autoresponder. You can actually hire people to do that. That's their specialty. You don't have to come up with this on your own. You kind of set the criteria. They'll write it, and they will probably ask you where it is in the sales cycle to write it for that particular audience. The three that I have here are Odesk, Elance, and Fiverr. Odesk and Elance are bid-based services. You go in, you sign in, you tell people that you want this done, and they provide bids for being able to do the service. Fiverr, on the other hand, is pretty much anything you want. The introductory price is $5. So if you're trying to test out to see how this stuff is working at an economical price, $5 is a way to get something going so you can test it out before you actually commit money. Now, there's upsells that go behind that, so I'm just giving you a heads up. My personal experience is I wanted a logo design. They would provide me with an electronic file for $5, no doubt. They would do that. They would design it and maybe a couple of iterations to get it right, but that would be it. On my side, I wanted the Photoshop file so I could do a little bit of my own editing, add some components that is really hard to communicate to the designer. So I paid extra for that. So instead of just paying $5, I think the total was $30. They will charge extra for if you want a delivery, a short turnaround time of less than 48 hours will be extra X amount of dollars. This is just giving you a heads up what's out there, but it's a very economical way to test out ideas, find people that do work that you like to do. We've talked about already kind of the generative metaphor, the path to mastery. Well, this is your first real look at it. When we talked the last time, I didn't really have this in mind as well as I do now. I think I had the metaphor, but not quite as complete as I do now. These are components of a gear. The trench is the valley, and that's the lowest part of the gear. People come on as onboarding. These are people who have signed up to be members, and you're going to put together a cohort of them, and they're all going to start together. This is similar to Antonio's Rocket City launch, where he has a number of people signed up before the class starts. You're going to put together a class and create a little bit of scarcity and urgency to get signed up and get into the class. Once you get people into the class, they fall into the sales funnel. But this sales funnel is predicated upon the path to mastery. So Trench comes on board, you onboard them. Then once they get through the onboarding and graduate from onboarding, they move to Tooth. Tooth is the habit building and skill building phase of the path to mastery. They add Tooth and they get enough teeth. Then they create a gear, and gear is the master level that we talked about earlier. And I'm taking this one other level to the guru status, which is the machine level, and those are the people that have completed gear not only once but twice. The machine level has 2. So this is the path to mastery. As you can see, once again, we're going back to the sales funnel. Also see the numbers again. People just drop out for various things. Life happens or whatever. So your numbers are going to reduce, but your profits should go up correspondingly as create more and more value for the people at the bottom end of the funnel. At the top end, they're testing it out. It's not really for me. Those types of things. And that can happen anywhere along the sales funnel until you get to a level where they're bought in. They're the people who come up with you and have you found this? Have you tried that? I've got an idea for you. They become more or less a part of the family. And kind of a loose way to say it, but as you look at the sales funnel, their expense probably is at the top and profits are down at the bottom. Constructing the Mindgear Labs community. Onboarding, the initial phase and coming into the Mindgear's Lab community. This is the orientation phase on the path to skill to mastery. When it's done right, they will move on to the next phase. This is one of those design things where you design it where they are successful, but you control how much they are able to do. You don't overwhelm them with all of the capabilities of the lab. You control access. And an impoverished onboarding result in declining motivation. You can almost guarantee that if they are not happy, they're going to drop off. Habit and skill development is the Tooth. After they finish the onboarding trench training, they're now able to go into the Tooth, where they build the habits and do the repetition of task, and they pick up like sign-offs on the machines, those types of things, moving them along to being more and more competent in the use of Mindgear Labs equipment and tools. An impoverished skill development phase results in declining retention. Once again, they will drop off if they're not treated well, if they're not learning enough, they're learning too much. It's a balancing act. It's not just a one-size-fits-all. The skill mastery is gear. They're fully able to participate in the development of people in the previous phases, meaning they're trainers more or less, or mentors. They're eligible for guild membership. The impoverished mastery results in declining commitment. It's different than retention. It means that they show up less. They're not as committed as they were. They may still be participating and contributing, but they're not as committed with their time and resources as they were when they first started. The expert level or guru that I mentioned earlier is required to retain a minimum of 2 gears. We've only talked about how to get 1 gear. but gears are attained by the membership in the member activities. Organizing members. Orders is the first one, so everybody starts off in the order of the trench. It is a cohort of incoming members for onboarding into the community. The order of the tooth, the order of the gear, and the order of the machine follow through the level ups as they hit their level ups. Lodge members. Lodge members are limited to gear level mentors on respective materials. The Lodge of Plastics, the Lodge of MDM, the Lodge of Brass are all examples. Guild membership is limited to machine level mentors on respective equipment. Guild of Laser, Guild of 3D, Guild of CNC. Core members are developed and enact retention strategies. The core of competition, the core of celebration, the core of customer satisfaction, the core of event planning. These are all built to design activities, takes that off of your plate so you don't have to do it. The members themselves do it, and they will ask around, they'll do the research. They won't just have to sit there and think it up. It'll be a part of the community. Troops are organized for the educators of Mindgear Labs. There's the troop of demonstration, the troop of tour guide, the troop of instructor. These were to be the ones that go out to the kiosk that I talked about earlier. They're able to translate the information they were able to gain at Mindgear Labs to the general public. Experience point systems. XPs are given in a tracking system. And the way I think about it is a point is incremental for nearly everything they do. At some point, the overhead gets enormous, and you can't do it like that. But it's a good way to subdivide tasks and activities and assign point values to them. I have an algorithm for this. I'm just showing a graph how that algorithm will look. Two of the other point systems that I would incorporate into the design of this are karma points. Karma points are assigned from one player to another. That means essentially they're to promote pro-social behaviors, like they swept up the lab, or you saw them stop and help a trench, or you saw them educate a tooth. It's to encourage the helping. So people in the hospital I used to work at, this was the attaboy, or catching people doing something good. You used to get a card for that. You get this card and it went to your manager, and your manager gave it to you. But karma points allocate like 100 karma points to spend over the month. You get like white marbles or something like that. And you could also theoretically give them black marbles to let them know that they need to look at some of what they're doing and work on improvement. Bonus points are strictly reserved for the management of Mindgear Labs to incentivize pro Mindgear Labs behaviors. That might include putting projects up on YouTube, social media, on Facebook, those types of behaviors, and you give bonus points for attendance. Particularly with the Thursday night gathering, they get bonus points for showing up. Just showing up, that's all it, but they don't get them if they don't show up. So it helps them move up. Obviously, you have to think about how that works within what activities gain points, what activities don't gain points. Leveling up criteria. New members begin the onboarding cohort at the trench level. They are all in the trenches until after the first onboarding class. Once they've completed the class, they move up. They're now tooth level. The onboarding class could be as short as 1 night to 4 weeks, 1 night a week since then. The tooth level is required like lab safety, software, equipment sign-off. So you got at least 3 main equipment. So that would be 1 for each. And then a graduation. Members are order of the tooth until onboarding graduation is completed. Acquisition of X number of gears equals machine level up. And machine level, you have to join a guild and participate in the guild or a lodge or a troop or a corps to be able to get your second gear and make it up to the machine level. Badges. Badges are used not so much for motivation, but for achievement. That means that they're only given whenever they have progressed through the onboarding stage. They've actually achieved that. That would be the graduation ceremony. Badge materials are visible recognition for guild membership. Badge shapes are visible recognition for lodge membership. Badge colors are visible recognition for core membership, and so on. Leaderboards. There are 2 types of leaderboards, and we're to use 1 absolute leaderboard and 1 relative leaderboard. Absolute leaderboards indicate the individual or team status in competitions. Mindgear Labs internal mini boss competitions and instructable or boss seasonal competition. They have milestones that they have to check in to a Mindgear authority to certify that they're hitting their marks. So it's like The Amazing Race on CBS, where they all leave at the same time, but they don't hit their marks, they get penalized. They're out of it. The second leaderboard is personal efficiency benchmark metrics rate and assign bonus points based on, and this is Mindgear's way of controlling cost, as design time, how long it took you to design that, how much materials did it cost, how long did it take from project from start to finish, putting where your boundaries are and how long it takes to get there and how much did it cost. Gamification platforms, you and I talked about this. There are several of these. These are the leading ones that I was able to find. Particularly the top one is customized off the shelf. You can add this to your website and modify the structures and levels and badges to fit with your business. 3 are Punch Tab, Captain Up, and Play Life. I'm more familiar with Captain Up because that's the algorithm I use to help determine the points level. The open source in Python, I don't know Python, so I have not seen these directly. All that I know for sure is the bottom one is the National Geointelligence Agency gamification platform on GitHub that they open source to the rest of us. So you might take a look at that as teams and projects and those types of things if you come out of the open source software. Programming, how do you program activity for things to do? Open house shows would be one where people come and the community selects in a judged or juried competition exemplary pieces of Mindgear members' work to show out to the public, like an artist, that provide artwork for the lobbies of banks and hospitals for people to look at as they go in. I don't see any reason why people who make things could not be considered an artist or creator. At least the only difference is the aesthetics. Redesign competitions, junkyard wars. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. They would be given an objective and they had to go out and find the materials in a junkyard and put it together. Commonplace office supplies or household goods. Take a skillet, blender, bowls, vacuum cleaners, those types of things, and redesign them. And that's a design competition. Dyson's redesigning of the vacuum cleaner and the fan, and OXO's redesigning of house goods. I think it would be a fun competition to take something that's normal and make it better, and who knows, it could actually lead to something that somebody would fund and they could get it out on Kickstarter. Activities programming that allow you to build your community. Each weekday has a workshop that lasts for 1 month, and when I mean weekdays, that would be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Gears and above are eligible because they already know and they'll have to be trained in the particulars of the different equipment. Thursday nights are reserved for socializing. Consistency of an event builds audience. People like to hang out with their friends, and you just one-offs and once a month. I don't think that builds audience. It may build knowledge, but I don't think it builds relationships, and I don't think it builds a community, because you need to touch base with people so that community has a common knowledge and a common mythos. The inside jokes, I just don't think that happens in a 1-hour thing. I think it happens over time, and this is a long-term strategy. The weekends are reserved for members and special events. A special mix of events for the player type Rocket City launch. That was such a wonderful event, but if you were to design it, because that was more for the killers and achievers, although there were a lot of people who were socializing, it wasn't really designed for them. So you need to think about that as well. And for explorers, the explorers designing things for them and to be exposing them to new products and new materials. The special events, using Instructables and Maker seasonal contest. Every year you're going to have a Halloween contest, you're going to have a Christmas contest, you're going to have Valentine's Day contest to pre-plan for a competition. That way you don't have to think of it yourself. As the competition comes, you could set that up where they internally compete to see which one is going to be submitted as the Mindgear Lab official entry. I think it would be great to raise visibility, not only locally, but it'd be great to raise visibility nationally. Mindgear Labs contest. Use the existing contest of Instructables and Make magazine. The recurring nature of holiday contests provide internal mini-boss challenges. Mindgear Labs location compete for the honor of the official entrant from Mindgear Labs, kids against the adults, to see what comes out with 2 different mindsets. I absolutely think that would be a great contest between parents and kids or teachers and kids, those types of things, because it sets the adults to innovate. Instructables archives 10 years of build contests at the link provided. Make contests are also at the link provided. The selection as a finalist is celebrated by the troops in charge that I mentioned earlier. Workshops and boot camps. Workshops, 1 month of learning and demonstrating new skills and abilities. A mini school. You got 1 week of theory class, and then you got 2 and 3 weeks of design and build. Week 4 is the project showcase and graduation. This encourages members to come in on their own time because they have time to do, but they have a goal. Boot camps, you take an equipment design or material intensives over the weekends and get really up to speed. I mean, it's just a rocket to get. It's an in-depth, very, very specific training so that you can get deep understanding in any of the three. Once again, gears and above are eligible to attend. Let me explain that. My newbies frustrate people. I'm taking this from my personal experience with square dancing way back, ancient history. But the really good square dancers did not like for the new people showing up at the club dances, because newbies will destroy the square, meaning that they would miss a hand pass or miss a spin or something, and throws the rhythm off. And I'm sitting there working on my skills, and I'm having to stop to help you learn your skills. This is why I'm limiting access to it to a higher level membership, so that they don't have to do that. There's like an assumed knowledge that these people know how to do that. Now, problem solving is different, but I'm not training them on software. I'm not training them on equipment. They've already been trained there. That's a base level understanding for boot camps in this particular instance.